10 years. That's how long it's been since I last saw my family. Not a single call, not even a birthday text. They cut me off when I dropped out of law school to start my own business, told me I was wasting my life chasing fantasies. I worked like hell, built something real, and now I own 3 auto repair shops across Georgia. So imagine my surprise when my mom calls out of nowhere, voice trembling like she's missed me. "We're having a family dinner," she says. "We'd love to see you." I showed up, thinking maybe they wanted to reconnect. But the second dessert hit the table, my brother leaned forward and said it. "We think you should give us a share of the business." "I'm not giving you a dime," I said, setting my fork down. My brother David blinked like he didn't hear me right. My mother clutched her napkin, eyes darting between us. Dad stayed silent, swirling his iced tea like this wasn't the real reason they'd invited me. But I knew better. They hadn't asked me how I'd been. No one mentioned the 10 years of silence. They wanted something, and now I knew exactly what. "You don't have to get defensive," David said calmly. "We're just talking." "No, you're not. You're asking for part of something I built on my own. From nothing." David leaned back, still smiling. "Come on, Matt. We're family, and you've done well for yourself. 3 shops? You can't pretend you did it all without help." I narrowed my eyes. "What help? You mean the time Dad laughed when I said I wanted to open a repair shop? Or when Mom told me I'd come crawling back after I failed?" My father finally spoke, low and gruff. "We were trying to protect you from disappointment." I scoffed. "By cutting me off? That's one way to do it." Mom's voice cracked. "We were scared for you. You were throwing away your education." "No," I cut her off. "I was throwing away your plans. And I've been fine. Better than fine, actually." David cleared his throat and tried again. "Look, we're not trying to fight. All we're saying is, you've got something good. Why not let the family benefit a little?" I stared at him in disbelief. "You think I owe you?" "You kinda do," he said, chuckling awkwardly. "You wouldn't be who you are without how you were raised. That has value." "You mean being raised like a second-class citizen? Like the backup plan to your Golden Child Act? The same act that crashed and burned after you blew your inheritance on a food truck and got divorced twice?" David's jaw tightened. "Low blow, man. Not as low as asking for free money." Mom reached for my hand. "Matthew, please." Things haven't been easy for David. His business didn't work out, and that's my problem, Hal. I pulled my hand away. "You all kicked me out over a dream. And now that the dream came true, you're back at the table like it was always yours." "You're being dramatic," Dad said sharply. "This is just a conversation." "No." I stood up, napkin falling to the floor. "This is a shakedown, dressed up like a family dinner." "You always had a chip on your shoulder," David muttered. "Maybe if you weren't so bitter, you'd realize we're just trying to survive." "Then get a job," I snapped. "Like I did. Like I still do. I work 60-hour weeks, and you want to cut because we share DNA?" Silence. Mom looked like she might cry. "Matt, we just miss you. Can't we at least?" "No," I said. "You miss what I have. Not me." I grabbed my coat and turned for the door. But then David stood up too. "Fine," he said. "But don't come crying to us when this whole thing crashes. You think you're invincible now, but you'll need us again. And don't expect us to be there." I didn't even turn around. "You were never there." I left. Drove half an hour home in silence, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles ached. I'd spent 10 years building a life without them, convincing myself I didn't care. But tonight proved something I wasn't ready to admit. Part of me had hoped they'd changed. But instead, they saw me as a wallet, a walking checkbook in a button-down shirt. And as I pulled into my driveway, headlights still on, I saw a shadow move near my garage. Someone was waiting for me. "Who's there?" I called out, stepping out of the car. The shadow froze. Then slowly, a figure stepped forward from the edge of my garage light. It was my sister, Rachel. "Hey," she said quietly, arms crossed, like she wasn't sure if she should be there. "Sorry to just show up." I hadn't seen her in years. Not since before I opened my second shop. She was the only one in the family who didn't throw words like selfish and stupid at me back then. But she didn't defend me either. She just disappeared. "What are you doing here?" I asked, trying not to let the adrenaline in my chest turn into something worse. "I didn't know they'd ask you that," she said quickly. "At dinner. The business thing." I narrowed my eyes. "But you knew they invited me." She nodded. "I figured they just wanted to reconnect. You know how Mom gets when the holidays get close." "It's August." She gave a faint smile. Close enough for her. I sighed and unlocked the door. You want to talk? Come inside. But if this is some tag team effort to soften me up. It's not, she said, following me in. I swear. Inside, I tossed my keys onto the counter and sat at the small table near the kitchen. She sat across from me, staring at the wood grain like it had answers. They didn't even tell me you were coming tonight until this morning, she said. I almost didn't go. I leaned back. But you did. I guess. I hoped it'd be different. That they'd finally just say they missed you. No strings. I looked at her, and her eyes met mine, and there was real sadness there. And they did miss you. But they also see what you've built, and they don't know how to separate the two. I scoffed. It's not that hard. You love someone or you don't. You support someone or you don't. There's no halfway. She looked down. I know. We sat in silence for a moment. Then she said something I wasn't ready for. They're drowning, Matt. I raised an eyebrow. David's in debt. Creditors are circling. Dad's medical bills are piling up since the insurance lapsed. Mom's been hiding how bad it's gotten. She asked me for money last month. I couldn't give much, but they're desperate. I folded my arms. And now they want me to bail them out. No, Rachel said quickly. At least, not like that. They don't want charity. That's why they tried to frame it like a partnership. I stared at her. You really think they'd have given me a cut of their success if the roles were reversed? She didn't answer. Exactly, I said. They didn't call when I was fixing tires in a strip mall, or when I was sleeping in the back room of my first shop to save rent. But now they're ready to reconnect. I'm not asking you to forgive them, Rachel said gently. I thought you should know the full picture. I stood up, pacing the kitchen. You didn't come here just to share family gossip. No, she admitted. I came because I feel stuck. Between people I love who've hurt each other. And I don't know how to fix it. Maybe it's not your job to fix it, I said. She looked at me with a kind of helplessness I hadn't seen on her face before. What if they lose the house? I froze. They're 2 months behind, she added. And David's credit is shot. I shook my head. I'm not their lifeline. I know, she whispered. But I also know you've always wanted to be seen. Really seen. Not just as the stubborn one. The dropout. The rebel. I looked at her. She stood slowly, grabbed her purse. I'm not asking you to give them anything. I'm asking you to decide if this is really the version of you that you want them to remember. Cold. Closed off. I didn't reply, just walked her to the door. Before she left, she turned and asked quietly, if David came to you tomorrow, alone, what would you say to him? I didn't answer, but the next morning, he showed up. David stood outside my shop before opening hours, hands stuffed in his hoodie pockets, staring at the ground like it might open up and swallow him. I almost didn't unlock the door, but something about the way he kept glancing up at the faded EST 2017 sign made me hesitate. I opened the door halfway. We're not open yet. I know, he said. I didn't come for that. He looked thinner than I remembered, a little grayer around the temples. Humbled, maybe, or just tired. Then what? I asked, arms folded. He took a shaky breath. Can we talk? Like, just us. No, Mom. No pressure. I stepped aside. You've got 5 minutes. He nodded and walked in. The shop smelled like oil and rubber, same as always. He looked around, almost like he couldn't believe it was real. You did all this, he said quietly. Yeah. No investors? Nope. He ran a hand through his hair. Guess I underestimated you. I stayed silent. David found a folding chair near the wall and sat down. I was a jerk. Back then. Probably still am. Probably. He gave a weak chuckle. Fair. I leaned against the counter. What do you want? I don't want a cut, he said quickly. I know how that sounded. I panicked. I shouldn't have said any of that. I raised an eyebrow. He sighed. The truth is, I'm drowning, man. My car got repossessed 2 weeks ago. We're late on rent. My oldest needs dental work, and I can't even afford groceries some weeks. So you came to guilt trip me in person? No, he said. I came because I need a job. That caught me off guard. I've been applying everywhere, he continued. But no one wants a guy who's got 2 bankruptcies and a DUI from 5 years ago. I messed up, but I can still work. I'm good with my hands. I just need a chance. I looked at him hard. You humiliated me in front of our parents. Laughed when I said I was going to open my own shop. Called me a dropout failure. I know. You haven't reached out in 10 years. And now you're asking for a job like it's nothing? No, he said again, slower. I'm asking for dignity. A way to earn something. not steal it. We stared at each other for a long time. Finally, I said, "You know what this job is like?" He nodded. Early mornings, late nights. Dirty hands. Tough customers. No glory, I added. No shortcuts. I don't want shortcuts anymore. I studied him. He looked honest. But I'd seen that look before, when he was trying to talk Mom into co-signing loans. When he told his first wife he'd stop gambling. When he said he had a business plan that couldn't fail. "You screw up even once," I said, "and you're out. No favors. No special treatment." "Understood. You start at the bottom. Cleaning bays, logging inventory." "Of course. And you don't tell people you're my brother. You earn your respect." "Got it." I hesitated, then nodded. "Be here Monday. 6 a.m. Don't be late." He stood up slowly, eyes wide. "Wait, really? Really?" He looked like he wanted to hug me, but I held up a hand. "We're not friends," I said. "Not yet." He nodded quickly. "Thank you. I won't let you down." I didn't say anything else, just walked him to the door. When he stepped outside, he turned and said, "I know I don't deserve this, but I'm going to prove I can change." "We'll see," I thought. I watched him walk off down the street, hands in his pockets again, but his shoulders straighter than before. I had no idea if I'd made the right call. But the real problem came 3 days later, when my father showed up, not asking, but demanding something much bigger. Dad walked into my office like he still owned the place, like I was still 19, waiting for his approval that never came. He didn't even knock, just barged in during lunch hour while I was going over payroll. "You hired David?" he said without sitting down. I kept my eyes on the spreadsheet. "He asked for a job. I gave him one." "That's not what he told us. He said you're trying to use him. Make him prove himself. Humiliate him." I looked up. "Is that what he said?" "That's how it sounded. You've got him scrubbing floors like some new employee?" I interrupted. "Because that's what he is. No credentials. No resume. No experience in this line of work. Or do you think he should start as shop manager?" Dad's mouth tightened. "You've always had a mean streak." "No," I said calmly. "I've had standards. And for the first time in his life, David is trying to meet one." He sat down across from me, slow and deliberate. "This family's falling apart, Matt." I sighed. "You think I don't know that? Then help us." I leaned back in my chair. "Help you how? What exactly are you asking for?" He hesitated. "The house. We're trying to refinance. But we can't do it alone. Our credit's shot. The bank needs a co-signer." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "You want me to co-sign a mortgage? It's just paperwork. You wouldn't have to pay a dime unless we default." "That's the entire point of a co-signer," I said flatly. "I'd be legally responsible. You think we'd let it get to that?" I gave him a long look. "Yes." He flinched. "We're your family. Not when it mattered." He sat quietly for a moment, then changed tactics. "I know I wasn't always supportive. I thought tough love would straighten you out. But you proved me wrong. You built something. That's why I'm here." "Because I proved you wrong?" "Because you can handle things now. You've got stability. We don't." I shook my head. "You don't get to use my success as your excuse. We're not asking for handouts. We're asking for survival." "Then sell the house." His jaw clenched. "That house is your mother's heart. You want to see her lose it? After 32 years? You all walked away from me without blinking. Don't act like emotional value suddenly means something." "You're bitter," he said. "You're damn right I am." He stood again. "You think you're above us now, because you've got a few shops and a nice house. But you're still our son. And one day, you're going to regret turning your back on blood." I stood too, calm but cold. "You all turned your back on me 10 years ago. Now that I've got something to offer, you're back. Not with apologies. With requests." "We didn't know how to apologize," he muttered. "Is that what you wanted?" I wanted truth, not manipulation. He moved to the door, but before he left, he turned and said something that stopped me cold. "David told me something," he said. "He said you still keep a picture of the family in your top drawer. That true?" I didn't answer. I saw it once. At Thanksgiving, 2008, you were smiling. All of us were. You think you're over it, but you're not. He walked out. I opened the drawer after he left. The photo was there. Worn, folded, but still intact. I stared at it for a while, then tossed it back in and slammed the drawer shut. That night, I found David still working, sweeping the back lot in the dark. He looked up, hopeful. Before I could say anything, a call lit up my phone. "Rachel." I answered. Her voice was trembling. "Matt," she said, Mom's in the hospital. It's her heart. I was in the car within 5 minutes, still in my work boots and grease-stained jeans. David offered to come with me, but I told him to stay, mostly because I didn't trust what I'd say to him in the state I was in. Traffic was a blur. I don't remember the drive, just the ache in my chest and the endless what-ifs. What if I never saw her again? What if the last words I ever said to her were through clenched teeth? When I reached the hospital, Rachel was already in the waiting room. Her face was pale and drawn. "She's stable," she said before I could even ask. "They're running more tests, but..." It was close. I sat beside her, my hands shaking for the first time in years. "Where's Dad?" She hesitated. "Still on his way. He was stuck at the bank." Of course. We sat in silence. The smell of antiseptic and bad coffee filled the air. Finally, the door opened and a nurse waved me in. My mother looked smaller than I remembered, lying in the hospital bed with wires running from her arms and a monitor beeping beside her. Her eyes fluttered open as I approached. "Matthew," she said, voice raspy. "You came." I nodded, unsure if I could trust my voice. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For everything." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. "I should have stood up for you," she went on. "When they mocked your dream. When they cut you out. I was scared to lose the family, but I lost you anyway." I took a breath. "Why now?" She gave a faint smile. "You always needed time to prove yourself." I guess, so did I. I sat there, holding her hand, the same hand that once gripped my shoulder after my first high school suspension, and the same one that never called me after I left home. "I hated you," I said quietly. "For a long time. I know, and I still don't know if I can forgive you." "I don't expect you to," she whispered, "but I wanted to say it, before it's too late." The beeping continued. Steady calm. A few minutes later, the doctor came in to explain everything. Mild heart attack. Stress-induced. She'd need rest and monitoring, but she'd recover. I walked out to find Dad pacing the hallway. His eyes lit up when he saw me. "How is she?" "She's going to be fine." He exhaled and leaned against the wall. "Thank God. She's in that bed because of you," I said flatly. "The stress, the debt, the secrets. It's killing her." He looked stunned. "You think this is my fault? I think it's all of yours. And I'm not playing cleanup for a mess I didn't make." She didn't say that. "No," she apologized. "You still haven't." He stiffened. "I've done what I could for this family." "No," I said. "You did what served you. And when I stopped fitting into that plan, you threw me out." I was shaking now, fists clenched at my sides. "And now, after all that, you want my name on your mortgage? My money in your house? My time fixing your disasters?" Rachel stepped between us, her voice calm but firm. "Matt, don't do this here." He turned away, but not before muttering, "We gave you everything, and you're still ungrateful." That was it. I walked out of that hospital and called a locksmith the next morning. I changed the shop locks, removed David from payroll, and sent him his last check. I didn't call. I didn't explain. He texted me once. I thought we were starting over. I didn't respond. A week later, Rachel showed up at my house. Her face was red from crying. "You didn't have to fire him. He used me," I said. "He was trying," she shot back. "For once in his life, he was really trying." "Trying's not enough," I said. "Not anymore." She looked at me with so much disappointment I had to look away. "I thought you were better than them," she said. "I guess we all were wrong." She left. I stood there in the silence of my perfect, spotless house, and for the first time in a long while, I wasn't sure if I felt victorious or just empty. 3 months passed. I buried myself in work. Hired a new guy named Luis, fresh out of tech school, hungry to learn, no baggage. He reminded me of myself at 22, except lighter. No chip on his shoulder, no ghosts in his rear view. Customers came and went. The business kept growing. From the outside, everything looked perfect, but the silence was deafening. Rachel stopped calling. David never reached out again. Mom texted once to say she was doing better, but I didn't reply. Dad stayed completely silent. I had what I always wanted: peace, money, control. And yet, every night I came home, dropped my keys on the counter, and sat alone in a house that echoed. One Thursday evening, after closing the shop late, I stopped at a gas station. As I walked inside, I saw a man loading groceries into an old Honda. His jeans were stained, and he looked tired. It was David. He didn't see me, or maybe he did and pretended not to. His daughter, the oldest, sat in the passenger seat, staring at her phone. David rubbed his face, then leaned on the car like the weight of the world had crushed him flat. I didn't go over. I just watched. And for the first time, I realized something. He had been trying. Not perfectly, not cleanly, but genuinely. He'd shown up early, stayed late, took every task I gave him, no matter how menial. He hadn't asked for raises or favors. He'd never even taken a day off. And I cut him off without a word. Not because of something he did, but because I still couldn't let go of what he'd done before. Back home, I pulled open the drawer in my office. The old family photo was still there, folded, faded. I stared at it for a long time. Then I picked up the phone. Rachel answered on the second ring. She was quiet at first. "Matt, I fired him too fast," I said. She didn't say anything. I thought I was protecting myself, but maybe I was just punishing him. "You were hurt. So was he." Rachel exhaled. "He's been working night shifts. Warehouse job. Pays almost nothing. I saw him tonight." "I know. He told me. He saw you too." That stung. "I want to talk to him," I said. "You sure?" "No," I admitted. "But I'm tired of being right and alone." We met the next morning before sunrise. I waited outside the same diner we used to eat at as kids. David showed up late, looking like he hadn't slept. "You didn't have to come," I said. "Neither did you." We sat in a booth by the window, ordered coffee, no food. "I messed up," I started. He looked surprised. "I let the past speak louder than the present. You were trying, and I didn't care." He nodded slowly. "I didn't exactly earn a clean slate." "No, you didn't. But you were earning something, and I burned it before it had a chance to grow." David stirred his coffee. "You want me back?" "Not at the shop," I said. "Not yet. That has to be earned again." He looked down, nodded. "But I do want to talk," I added. "Not about work. About whatever this is." He smirked. "Family. Something like that." We didn't hug. We didn't cry. But we sat for an hour. Talked about Mom's rehab schedule, Rachel's new job, even Dad, who'd apparently started seeing a counselor for the first time in his life. It wasn't a clean ending. There were still scars, still distance. But for the first time in a decade, I walked away from a conversation with my brother without anger in my chest. Later that night, as I sat on my porch with a beer, the silence felt different. Not empty, just quiet. And I wondered, if someone hurts you, over and over, but then finally changes, do you let them back in? Or do you protect the walls you built, even if they're closing in? Would you have given him another chance?